On the outskirts of a small, forgotten village stood an old, decrepit mansion known to locals as the Whispering House. Its weathered facade, covered in creeping ivy and black mold, seemed to exude an aura of dread. For years, no one dared to approach it, let alone step inside. Stories of inexplicable disappearances and ghostly apparitions surrounded the mansion, cementing its reputation as a place of terror. One autumn evening, driven by a mix of curiosity and the promise of a hefty reward from a local historian, a young journalist named Claire decided to investigate the Whispering House. Armed with a flashlight, a camera, and a notebook, she pushed open the rusted iron gate that led to the overgrown garden. The air grew colder as she neared the mansion, and an eerie silence settled over the grounds, broken only by the occasional rustle of dead leaves. The front door, once grand, now hung crookedly on its hinges. Claire took a deep breath and stepped inside, her flashlight beam cutting through the thick darkness. The interior of the mansion was a maze of decaying rooms and winding corridors. As Claire ventured deeper, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Shadows seemed to shift in the corners of her vision, and she heard faint whispers echoing through the halls. Determined to uncover the truth, she pressed on, documenting everything she saw. In one room, she discovered an old journal belonging to a previous inhabitant named Margaret. The entries detailed a series of strange occurrences, whispers in the night, objects moving on their own, and the growing sense of an unseen presence. Margaret wrote of a dark entity that seemed to be the source of the mansion's malevolence. As Claire read, the whispers grew louder, forming coherent words. Leave or suffer. The same fate. The temperature dropped sharply, and her breath formed visible puffs in the air. She felt a cold, invisible hand brush against her neck, sending a jolt of terror through her. Determined to confront whatever haunted the mansion, Claire continued her exploration. In the basement, she found a hidden door behind a crumbling bookshelf. It led to a secret chamber filled with ancient, occult symbols painted on the walls and floor. At the center of the room was a large, grotesque statue of a hooded figure with hollow eyes. Claire's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. She heard footsteps behind her and spun around to see a shadowy figure emerging from the blackness. The entity was tall, cloaked in darkness, with glowing red eyes that pierced through the gloom. "Why have you come?" it hissed, its voice a chilling amalgamation of countless whispers. Claire's voice trembled as she replied, "I want to know the truth about this house." The entity's eyes flared brighter. "This place is cursed, bound by blood and sacrifice. Leave now, or you will join the others." Claire's heart raced, but she knew she needed more information to understand the full story. She returned to the journal and continued reading. Margaret's final entries revealed a horrifying truth: the mansion had belonged to a wealthy family who practiced dark rituals to summon and control supernatural entities. They had sacrificed their own servants and even family members to appease the dark forces, binding the entity to the house. In a desperate attempt to rid the mansion of its evil, Margaret had tried to perform a counter-ritual, but she vanished before she could complete it. Claire realized that the entity had not been fully banished and still lingered, feeding off the fear and lives of those who dared enter. Determined to finish what Margaret had started, Claire searched the mansion for the necessary items to complete the counter-ritual: candles, a ceremonial dagger, and a rare herb mentioned in the journal. Each item was hidden in different rooms, guarded by increasingly aggressive supernatural phenomena. With all the items gathered, Claire returned to the secret chamber. She arranged the candles in a precise pattern around the statue and placed the herb in a small bowl at the statue's feet. Holding the ceremonial dagger, she began chanting the incantation from the journal. The room shook violently, and the shadows coalesced into the entity, which now loomed larger and more menacing than before. It lashed out with tendrils of darkness, but Claire continued the ritual, her voice growing stronger with each word. As she completed the chant, she plunged the dagger into the statue's heart. The entity let out a deafening roar as the symbols on the walls flared with blinding light. The tendrils of darkness receded, and the entity was pulled towards the statue, its form dissolving into wisps of smoke. With a final echoing scream, it was banished from the mansion. Exhausted but triumphant, Claire stumbled out of the mansion, her heart pounding. She had faced the horrors within and survived, armed with proof of the supernatural. The historian was overjoyed with her findings, but Claire knew she could never forget the malevolent presence she had encountered. Despite her efforts to move past it, she occasionally heard faint whispers at night, a reminder that some horrors never truly leave us. Years passed, and the Whispering House was eventually demolished, its land left untouched as a memorial to the souls lost to its darkness. Claire moved on, but the experience left her forever changed. She continued her career, now with a deep understanding of the thin veil between the world of the living and the dead. She wrote a best-selling book about her experience, hoping to warn others about the dangers of meddling with the unknown. But even as she achieved fame and recognition, she could never shake the feeling that the entity was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for another chance to return. And every now and then, when she was alone in the dark, she could still hear those faint whispers, reminding her of the terrifying night in the Whispering House.